your account, and this is the initial application screen that you would come to. Whenever you come in, if you have multiple applications, you can see all of those applications in process here. If you have not started a new application yet, you would just click the new start application link here in the bottom, and that would begin your application process. So today we're going to go ahead and start that new application link and walk through the step-by-step process. So as you click, it would then ask you for an application type. It's going to look at the whatever term you're applying to whenever you pull up this link. For this one, we're going to be looking at the 2026 cycle because that's going to be the point forward. So you would select the point that you're going to be looking at as far as an entry term, not the current application year. So for this one, we're going to select this 2026 graduate application cycle, and then we're going to be doing a new 2026 graduate school application. So after we do that, we're going to click Create Application, and then we're going to open that up and start through the process. So as we go through the process, here we have a lot of the left-hand navigation is going to give you all the details as far as those different steps. We'll walk through those individually, but also it gives you an initial instructions page here with all the details. So as you begin your application process, it has great information for before you begin, some frequently asked questions, also a contact us if you have additional questions or need information. Also has links to your program director or contact for your program. So you can click on that and it would give you additional information as well. Also, we have some information about distance learning programs. So our distance learning programs are restricted to domestic applicants or international applicants that are in country on certain types of visa. So it has some information there about that information as well. Students can only have 2 applications at a time. So if you're applying to multiple programs, you can do that, but it would require only 2 at a time be open. So you would need to have that application continue through the entire process, receive a decision before you could open an additional application. So 2 at a time. Deadlines are all going to be looked at. Here is your program information. One point of information, it's going to be on an 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. So that's going to be the deadline of whatever date is given for your program application. And then additional information regarding our international applicants with some additional information that you would need there, and then any documents. We have great information here that goes into detail about all these different types of information pieces. So you can click these and it will open up, give you additional information. I'm not going to go step by step through those right now, as we'll talk about those a little bit later. And then some information regarding Social Security number, SSN number as you're applying. So this first page is just going to be your general instructions information session whenever it comes in. As we continue through the process, you're going to enter your personal information and background information. So this is going to be able to talk through the different steps here. So beginning with things like your name, if you have a previous name, family name, all that information is going to be listed out. It's going to give you an email address to be able to enter. So you're going to enter that email address. We ask that you use one email address when you're corresponding with us and creating applications. If you're using multiple applications, or multiple email addresses for application and then communication pieces, it can really confuse the process and get mixed up. So we ask that you only use one email address for your application and then communication pieces as well. After that, you would enter your information as far as your mailing addresses and permanent address. That would be listed out here. If it's the same, you can click the same here. One piece of information for our international applicants: the way that this system is set up, it does require typically a number. So if your address doesn't include a number, if you could just enter a 0 or 1 at the beginning of it, it should allow that to be picked up and allow you to submit that application at that point. You would provide all that information here, telephone numbers, opting in if you would like to receive text information, biographic information, and then citizenship, birth country information is going to be listed out here, and then all the details. So this first page is going to be basic biographic information, pretty self-explanatory as far as the details go, but you can look at all those information. But again, please try to use one email address when setting up your account and then providing communication to us for additional questions. As you continue through the process, one thing I will mention is you're able to skip around in the application here through these links. So you can click on any link and come back to it. However, it does flow a little bit more smoothly if you would follow it just in the order that is listed here. So kind of in a chronological order proceeding down. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at program of study. when you click on the program of study, this is where you're going to select the information about what program you're applying to. So one piece of information, you do need to check all of these boxes. It's kind of a little button here in order for the information to show up. So we're going to start here at the top. We're going to click this domestic piece of information. Then you would click if you would like to apply to on-campus programs or distance programs. As mentioned, for our international applicants, if you're applying or want to apply for distance, it may not even show up for you because only certain programs are allowed to apply for distance at the university at this time. So for this one, we're going to select an on-campus program, and then you're going to answer a question about have you ever been applied or I'm sorry, have you ever been enrolled? So that means have you been enrolled at UA taking classes in a graduate program before? Not were you admitted, not have you applied previously, like have you been enrolled previously? So for this one, we're going to like a new applicant, we're just going to select no. And then additional application attribute information. Are you a current University of Alabama undergraduate student or seeking dual enrollment? We're going to select no for both of those. Then we're going to come down and start picking our program of study. Here, this is when you're really looking at what program you're applying to. By answering the questions above, it's going to show you the options that are available. So when you select this, we're going to say that we are a doctoral student. Then it's going to show us all of the options for main campus, on-campus enrollment for doctoral students. It has the links again out to our program portal so you can look at all of the programs that are available, the modalities, whether it be main campus or distance learning, and then also things like deadlines and program piece information. So that's got a link out to our program portal page there. Also, it's important for you if you're in a program that you are looking at receiving licensure. There's a link to a website here to be able to check if whether that licensure is going to be compatible where you currently reside if you're a distance student or if you're an on-campus student. So some of them have reciprocity agreements between states or from one profession to another in different states. So be sure and check that information out if you're applying to one of those programs as well. So after you select doctoral, again, it's going to give you the drop down. So for this one, for instance, we're going to go through and look at all the different doctoral options. You can just scroll through and select. It's a drop down menu. So after we select for this one, for instance, we're just going to select higher education PhD. And then once it does that, it opens up an area of focus. Some programs may have a concentration listed here. Other programs just have an area of focus. Some education areas may have a teaching area of emphasis. So you would select that information here. Or if it's an option, you could just free form. If you don't have an area of focus, you can leave blank or enter none, as it mentions here. But that's going to give you the option. Once you do that, you're going to select main campus. Then it's going to give you the options for entry terms. So this is going to be where you're going to select what term you're applying for. If you're applying for certain programs, they may have, like this one, a fall-only entry term. So there's not going to be an option for you to apply for a spring start date or a summer start date. For us, the entry term intakes are going to be spring, which is going to be January as far as a start date goes, summer, which would be late May, early June, or fall, which is going to be August. Typically, the majority of students are going to select fall. Also, if you are looking at receiving funding opportunities from your department, that's typically when the most funding opportunities are going to be available. So it's going to be a fall start date. After that, you would select your entry term and then go in and select how you learned about the University of Alabama. And so you can select multiple ones here if you're interested, but we're going to select just the UA website. Once you hit continue, it's going to save that information and hold it as you continue through the process. So if something happens and you need to look at the additional information or come back to it later, you can do that. So it's going to save you and pick up in your progress as you continue through. All right. After we select our program of study and what we're interested in, you're then going to list your academic history. Again, this is going to be anywhere that you've attended that you've received a grade of more than 15 credit hours. If you have any graduate level coursework, even if it's less than 15 hours, we would encourage you to submit that transcript as well. So even if it's less than 15 hours of graduate level coursework, so after receiving your bachelor's, kind of postgraduate or post-bachelor's coursework, graduate level, we encourage you to submit a transcript at any level. We will accept unofficial transcripts as far as the application process goes for the review process. If you are admitted and choose to enroll, you would need to submit your official transcripts, which means a transcript sent directly from your institution to the university. It can't be emailed to you first and then you submit it to us. So we would need to have that official transcript be sent directly to us, either electronically or in person. For our international students, if sometimes I know you may be only issued one copy of your transcript, if you have your official copy with all of the stamps that are provided official, you can bring that official copy with you when you enter the US for starting enrollment and bring it to our office, and we can make a copy and verify for you at that time. So quote unquote unofficial transcripts will be accepted for the initial review process, but you will need the official once you enroll or prior to enrolling whenever you come in. Whenever you click on this, you can click Add Institution. That's going to give you the ability, so you can search institution here. So for instance, we're going to type in University of Tennessee, just for an instance. It's going to bring up all the different Tennessee options. So we're just going to select the one at UT Knoxville. It'll load some information for us. You would then enter dates attended for whatever those may be. So we'll just say 2019 until January of 2023. And then you would select your level of study, whether it's going to be undergraduate or graduate master's level. So we're going to say undergraduate for this one. It would then allow you some different options here. Bachelor's equivalent, the date that your degree was conferred, and then so you'll enter that information that would be listed out. We'll say 2023 again, what your major was. If it doesn't have your exact major listed, we encourage you to select just the closest option that it would be. So if you don't have your specific waiver, then look at the options and select the best one. So for this one, we're just going to select accounting here at the top. If you have additional majors and minors, you can enter that, and then the GPA here. So we really encourage you to enter the GPA on your current scale, not convert it, and then also look at the GPA requirements for your program. Generally speaking, the GPA is going to be a 3.0 for graduate admissions. However, some programs may have a higher GPA requirement whenever you're looking at those different programs. So be sure to check that out. So for instance, here, we're just going to say a 3.8 out of 4.0, and then how many credit hours you received or the total number of credits or units you received. So we're going to say 130, for instance, on this one. You can go ahead and attach a transcript at this time here, or you can do it later. So we're just going to go ahead and save and continue with the process. So now you'll see the University of Tennessee information listed out here on the additional information. If you are a University of Alabama student previously and you are applying to graduate school now, you don't have to submit that transcript. We will go ahead and pull those for you automatically. So once you get all of your information entered on your academic history, you're just going to continue in the process. Here's where we're going to add the additional test scores. So a couple of things about test scores. Not all programs require test scores. We encourage you to check out that link to the program portal that we've created for everyone to look at the test score information to see if it's required. A lot of our business programs do require test scores. That could be a GRE score requirement. It may be a GMAT score requirement. But there's all of those programs are listed out. If your program requires a GRE test score or a GMAT test score, you have to submit that. The graduate school does not issue any waivers for GRE requirements. Also, sometimes there's some confusion, but GRE or GMAT tests are not language proficiency tests. Those are graduate entrance exam tests. So even if your country is exempt from an English language proficiency exam, but requires a GRE or GMAT score, you would still be required to submit that score in order to continue in the application process. In addition to your graduate exam scores for your programs, if you are from a country and you do not qualify for a language exam exemption, whether that be from being from a country that is English speaking or from being from attending an institution and receiving a degree from an English speaking country, whatever those different options of you qualifying for. If you don't meet those criteria, you will need to submit your language proficiency score also. I would encourage you also to look at the language proficiency exam score information in that portal as well. There are some programs that have additional or higher requirements than just the general graduate school. So be sure and check those out to make sure that you meet that criteria whenever you're applying as well. For students that require an English proficiency score, or for students, domestic or international, that require a GRE exam or GMAT exam score, your application cannot continue through review process until you submit those scores. So if you have a GRE requirement and you are waiting to take the exam at a later date, your application cannot continue through the process. You first have to get that score before we can even start the review process whenever it comes in. So just something to keep in mind as you're planning out your timelines for those different things. Once you get through the test score information, you're going to enter your recommender information. Here, if you have applied previously and there are recommenders, you have the option to import. If not, you're going to add the recommender information. You would complete all the details here. So things like first name, last name, their organization, relationship, how long you've known. There's going to give you an option to send a personal message to that recommender. So you'd enter that information here. Then it's also going to give you some information about a Buckley Amendment waiver. A little bit of information about that. You have the option, and you can kind of see you want to waive your right to access the report from the recommender, or you do not waive your right to access the report. And then you would sign that. And then once you send it to your recommender, you cannot change your information and decision about this. So I would be very, very careful about what you put in this information here. It's up to you. It's your option. However, you would not be able to change it once it's submitted. So totally your option. Some people want to see what their recommenders submit, so they would not waive their right. Others do not care. I will say also sometimes recommenders may be hesitant if you don't recommend or don't waive your right. But again, it's your choice, your option. You select that option and you have the right to choose it. But once you submit it, we can't change it because the recommender is going to get that immediately once you hit send a recommender. And so once they submit that information, we can't change how you've responded to that Buckley Amendment waiver question on your process. All right. Once you finish the recommendation section, you're going to go to contacts. There's a couple of different options here for contacts. When you click add new, you're going to see the relationship and drop down. Whenever you go through, you can select whatever that's going to be. Also, if you're looking at a department or mentor, this is where you would enter that there. Some programs require that, others do not. So make sure you check out your specific program information about that. But it's going to give you a lot of options here. So once you select this, if you select say spouse, for instance, you're just going to go in and then complete the additional information that would be listed here and then save. So this is going to be like a contact, emergency relationship, or emergency contact whenever you list it out here. Once again, you can also select UA department or mentor contact, and you would enter their information as well. You can see some of the details here that's going to be listed out. So that's going to be another option for you to select there if you have a mentor. Not required, but is an option for, and some programs do require it in certain instances. As you continue through, the next part is going to be upload materials. This is going to be where you're going to upload things like your statement of purpose, your resume, maybe a writing sample if your program requires it. Also have the option to enter some test score information, but all of that information is going to be able to be listed out here. Statement of purpose, that's going to be your general kind of essay, as some people call it. Life statement, other people's call it, so a lot of different things, but statement of purpose. Basically, you're going to talk about things that have your background, reason for attending programs, your goals, maybe postgraduate or career, to look at those sorts of things. I would definitely, again, we've got the link out to your prospective program. Some of them have some real specific information as far as the way that they want their statement of purpose listed. So the instructions for the statement of purpose, some of them have some real specific information about the content in the statement of purpose. Some may want you to address certain questions or writing prompts within the statement of purpose. So be sure that you check out that prospective program link and look at all the information there and their details regarding their statement of purpose. Option to upload the resume as well. Again, some programs require, some don't. Some want you to have a CV if it has, maybe you have some research background, but just look at your program portal and look at the different details there. And then also writing samples. So again, some programs require writing samples, some do not. But check it out, see what they're looking for as far as the writing sample goes, to give you the details there. Once you get that, you can also click on the portfolio, check out this information. There's some programs that require specific portfolio uploading. So things like art, athletic training has an observational experience form. Other programs may ask you to do a video statement of purpose. So be sure to check that out. And then you can upload all of your materials here. It gives you all the details about what formats are accepted, how you can upload, what you can do. So all of it's listed here. You can select multiple files to upload and then start your upload progress to do here. Also, sometimes people, this is kind of a place if there's other information you want to include in your application, but there's not anywhere to really fit it. So if you have a published journal article that maybe you would like to include in here, you can add it to your portfolio section, or other details or things like that. You can look at it as well for your portfolio section to be able to upload there. After that, you've got your disciplinary history questions. This is a standard for the University of Alabama process, so you'd be able to go in and answer all of these questions. Once you complete those, if there is any that you would answer yes to, it's going to provide you an additional information to explain why you answered yes to that question. So if you have any questions or details there, you can do. If you answer no to all, there's no additional explanation needed. You'll just continue through with the process. After that, you're going to go to the application fee section. This is where you're going to continue. Here you would go over and enter the information. Mine is a little bit different because I have some additional information that's listed on mine. Typically here you would see where you would check that you understand application fees are non-refundable. You would see the information that you're going to be charged for the application, and then it would take you to a payment gateway to complete that application payment fee. If you do not pay during the application process here and you go ahead and submit the application, you can go back into your application status portal and pay at a later date, and that would give you the details there. Right now, we do not offer any application fee waivers except for some very specific programs, or for very specific reasons. Those reasons typically are going to be if you are currently in the U.S. military, if you are a current UA student and you're applying to the same program, and that's really kind of the most as far as the application fee waivers now. We do have an application free app week that we participated in. It's already passed for this year. But if you're interested in applying in the future for a future year, typically that's going to be around October of future years. So be on the lookout for that and look at it. But right now, we have the only application fee waivers are very small, and those stipulations are listed out on our application website. Once you do that, you're just going to sign your application that says everything that you put in here is truthful to the best of your knowledge. There's no misleading information. You'll sign that, and then you'll do a review of everything. If you have any errors, it's going to give you details here. So red errors are going to mean you have to fix it prior to being able to submit the application. So you have to correct it prior to submitting. The orange are going to be things that you can go ahead and submit, but you would need to pay attention to and correct potentially in the future. So once you do that, you can either do save for later or submit the application. Once you submit the application, you can still go back into your application status portal and see those additional pieces of information. So we're going to quickly go back through here for just a second, and I'm going to take you back in and kind of show you the status page as well, what it looks like. Once you submit the application, you're going to get a status portal also where you can go in and check the status of all of your applications. So right here, there would be a drop down that would show you all the applications. We just started the higher education application for the PhD program for main campus. So it shows you all of the details here that's listed out as far as your application. It's going to show you your reference number, the term you're applying for, program, all of the details there. It's also going to show you all of the application materials that you've submitted. So you can see here we have not submitted statement of purpose, resume, writing sample. You can come in and upload all those materials. So for here, you would just click this drop down you would select what you're uploading. So we're going to select, say, transcript from University of Tennessee, like we talked about earlier. Then you would choose the file, attach it whenever it comes in. You can add additional information to your portfolio, and then you can also click and see a complete application proof. Um, as your application progresses through the process, you'll be notified of all the different materials. Since this one has just been submitted, right here, you don't have an additional, but as you go through the process and you make payment, it will then go to awaiting materials. Once you get all your materials submitted, it would go to the graduate school evaluation. After your materials are submitted, our graduate school staff takes a look at the things, make sure everything is appropriate and proper, and then we would go over and send it to your department or program. Once the department program evaluates and makes a decision, it comes back to grad school. We do a final review process whenever we go through, and then make that final decision and release it out to the applicants. So that's pretty much the application and then the application status portal as far as what we're going to talk about today. So a couple of things just to mention. Be sure you're using that same email address whenever you're communicating with us and you're setting up your application piece for the application information. So that's really, really helpful and beneficial. Use that same email address that you use for your application setup as well as your communication with us. Check out that program portal link that we have. It's available on the application website and then also several other places. It's linked on the main graduate school page as well. That's going to give you the details as far as things like deadlines, program piece information, things like your statement of purpose information, writing sample requirements if required. So be sure and really check out that status portal. Pay attention to your deadlines for your programs of when they come in. So they're going to really be vital as far as your process goes. So make sure you pay attention to those deadlines and hit those deadlines. And then lastly, just for students, if you're really looking at things like maximizing your opportunity to receive funding, that sort of thing, you really probably want to look at maybe a fall intake. Some programs only have a fall start term, but others may offer a summer or spring, but may not have as many funding opportunities. So I would definitely, take a look at that and check out with your program if you're looking for those funding opportunities. All right, so I'm going to go through now and take a look at a couple of the questions. I know my colleague has been answering a lot of those in real time. I'm going to try to answer a few of them as we kind of go through here as well. There are lots of links in the chat, so be sure to check out those for the things like our program portal and other things. So
No.
be sure to check out that as well. All
Yeah,
right.
Landon, I was just going to add some of them I'm marking as answer live that I've saved for you, and I'm trying to get through as quickly as possible. But definitely the ones that say answer live, those are just for you.
Okay, you got it. No problem. So, all right, we're going to look at a couple of them here. All right, so a couple of things here we're going to look at on the question Q&As as we go through the process. Let me get it back over. All right, so a couple questions here. I see one that's asking about residency status for international applications. How many years will we put as visa expiration? If you don't have a visa yet or don't have a visa expiration date, it's okay to leave that information blank. One thing, if you don't know your visa type, if you don't currently have a visa, the majority of students that are applying is going to select F1 as their visa type. So that would definitely take as far as what you would put in for that information. A couple other questions here. There are a question here saying that you need 3 recommendations, but program only requires 2. The recommendations, even though it gives you an error message, it should still let you submit the application. So if your program says only two, you should still be able to submit that application without adding an additional third. It's going to give you, like we talked about, that orange message, but that's considered what we call a soft fail. So you should still be able to answer those. Hey, Caitlin, just real quick, it's not letting me slide through or look at the Q&As, so I can only see a few of them. So just FYI, I can't really get to them. So if you'll leave them open, I'll answer them. And then when I answer it, if you can just close it out, that would be great.
I was gonna say, I just made you a co-host. Maybe that will allow you to, but if not, I'll try to keep them dismissed or whatever once you answer them.
Yeah, I'll take a look and see. It's not. Nope, still doesn't look like it's letting me click them. So I'll answer and then you can just
Okay.
kind of knock them out. So um question here about just how the process works. Typically, if you're talking about funding opportunities and um, admissions opportunities, your admissions letter and funding letters are not going to necessarily come together. Those are separate pieces. So the graduate school is going to offer admission to the specific program, and then most of the time, programs are going to offer an opportunity to be funded, and they're going to send that funding letter at a later date. So they will not necessarily come together. Um, all right. Caitlin, are there any other specific questions we want to answer?
No, there have been a lot of questions kind of just about timeline. I think a lot of students have submitted their application
Okay.
that are already in department review. If you just kind of want to give a brief overview of what that looks like, as well as,
Yeah, sure. That'd be great. So, when you're talking about timelines, there's a couple of steps, and I'll kind of walk you through the process a little bit what we talked about earlier with up here. So, once the application comes into the graduate school, and it says that all of the materials have been received. So, we received everything like your transcripts, your test scores, writing samples if we need it. The graduate school is going to do a review of that process and make sure that all of those details are in fact there that are needed. Typically, we try to get those done as quick as we can. If you've already applied and the application volume is coming in because of Free App Week, it may take us a couple of weeks to get through some of those things, but typically we try to get through that as quickly as we can. Once it goes out to the departments really kind of operate all on different timelines. So some of them have what they call rolling admission. So they just review applications constantly and make decisions and then verify and send it back to the graduate school. Excuse me, other departments may have a deadline and they wait until after that deadline to review applications and send any decisions out. Some of them may send all of the decisions out at one time to all of their programs. Some of them may send them out in batches or waves. So really, it depends on the different programs. Once it comes back to the graduate school, we typically verify those final admissions decisions and get those letters and everything ready to release the decisions as quickly as we can. Usually it's just a couple of days to a week as far as the final review process. So once it comes back from the department, it's usually a pretty quick turnaround as far as releasing those decisions whenever they come out. It always is dependent on volume whenever it comes in, and always depends on kind of the time of the year and the cycle whenever we're in. Um, the hard part about it is if someone's asking specific questions like you guys are a lot of times about how long is it going to take my program to make a decision, we can't really answer that. Graduate school controls, again, the initial review and then the final review, but that kind of longer process of when it's in the department, we don't determine that. The departments determine it by different ways. So we can't really give you a timeline of when those decisions would be made or when it would be finalized. Um, I encourage you if your application now again it's a little bit different from undergrad. So once it goes to the department, it's not unusual to take several weeks, maybe even a couple of months for departments to review and make decisions on. You can definitely reach out to your program if you have questions about that, but it's not unusual. It's not going to be typically a few programs have a quick turnaround where it may be a couple of days, or a couple of weeks whenever it comes in, but it's not unusual for programs to have a little bit um, longer timeline or longer process for that. All right. So we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up today. We really appreciate you guys' attendance today. If you have any additional information and questions, you're welcome to kind of check out our website, send us maybe an email, drop us a line about any additional questions. But we thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to hopefully hearing from you or possibly even seeing you on campus in the near future. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us in the graduate school and we'll help in any way we can. Thanks again for attending and roll tide.
Thanks, guys. Roll Tide.